but the division cannot afford it because of a projected cash deficit of more than $150 million. Instead, BHP will spend $23.8 million extending the life of the furnace for 2 years. The division's manager of primary production, John Cleary, said work on the modifications would start immediately, and this would have good spin-offs for local industry. Apart from one item of specialised equipment, everything would be manufactured in Australia, and most would be spent in the Hunter. Mr Cleary said BHP now planned to reline the furnace in 1987 and categorically denied that the deferment showed any hesitancy on the part of BHP to reinvest.
Every 5 years, New South Wales plays host to the National Indoor Bowls Championships, and this year the venue is the Newcastle Entertainment Centre. There are 5 state teams competing, which include Queensland, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania and New South Wales. Each side is 60 competitors strong, with a 4-member junior team. Over this week they'll be contesting the singles, pairs, triples and fours events, playing in a round robin. Unlike lawn bowls, Bias bowls are smaller, measuring 10.2 centimetres in diameter. They're bowled along a 9-metre felt mat. 28 fields are in use at the championships. To qualify for the national event, all players must hold or boast a state title. Today the Open Fours games were underway, but on Thursday the Australian teams events will begin, with all competitors sporting their colourful state uniforms. Those games will be the qualifying rounds to the finals, planned for Saturday afternoon. The jam-packed crowd of shoppers who attended yesterday's opening of the new World Centre is expected again today. More bargains will be up for grabs if the hunters are quick enough to jostle for space and weave their trolleys through the aisles of people, and be prepared to juggle 2 at once. Some finishing touches are still to be made on the specialty shops outside the Coles supermarket, but that won't interfere with running of general business. According to New World managers, the store expects to take in $750,000 this week. The company will continue to expand its outlets when a new store will soon be opened at Gorican on the Central Coast and another planned for Wallsend.
Heading the convoy was a truck towing a cab that was extensively damaged by vandals early Sunday morning. Its owners say it will cost about $3,500 to have it repaired. While the cab is insured, every day it's off the road, money is being lost. The drivers want to see heavier penalties introduced generally to try and stop violence against cabbies and their property.
Everybody is taking this matter seriously. The police are taking it seriously. They've made a magnificent effort. The taxi organisation in Newcastle take it seriously. The New South Wales Taxi Council take it seriously. We now have to have the harsher penalties at the other end to make it meaningful.
Just how harsh?
Well, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an expert, but I know that I've got to bear the brunt of this, and I know that at the moment the penalties that are being dished out aren't serving as a deterrent to what's happening.
An expo like this is clear evidence that the office worker of today is dealing with high technology. Even the chair they place their bottom on is a monument to modern science. And remember how the blackboard was superseded by the whiteboard in schools and lecture halls? Well, now there's the computerised whiteboard. Forget about wiping it clean, just press the button and the lecture slides away. But it's not forgotten. The whiteboard makes sure of that by printing up to 99 copies of the lecture in an instant. The Office Expo continues tomorrow at the Broadmeadow Basketball Stadium. Under one roof, office administrators and workers can compare the latest in typewriters, copiers, computers and all manner of office machines and furniture. The exhibitors here say the aim of the new technology is to make the office more comfortable and efficient. And just so you can't escape those office hassles on the way home, Telecom has come up with the car phone. Or it's handy to call ahead. Hello, Dad. Put a strong cup of coffee on. I'll be home soon. The adventures of Nimity Bell and Jackadadgery and their flight from the evil witch doctor may not be familiar to this generation of children, but in the darkened atmosphere and under the spell of live theatre, this young audience was drawn into the adventure of the children of the Dark People.
See, I had you fooled. You didn't know it was me, did you? No, you didn't.
John McFadden plays the witch doctor, the only adult there. Over 50 children play the other characters, rotating casts of different performances. One of the most breathtaking costumes was that of the spirit of the waterfall. The entire production is enchanting with a pantomime feel to it. It will continue through the first week of the school holidays and then on each Saturday until Christmas. Already many of the Saturday performances are booked out.
Got a big bag of wind. He has a very, very...
Just a few weeks ago, this area, which has excited a team from the Australian Museum's Fossil Department, was a rubbish tip. But when a clean-up began by Central Coast Sands, which excavate the area for sand and concrete, a small and isolated shale bed was uncovered. The area is not a new one for fossils. 10 years ago, a rare fossil of a lizardfish and another of a lungfish known as a Gosfordia were discovered. Already the digging has revealed common fish fossils that date back 210 million years ago. But it's the search for rare fossils never seen before that the team is confident of discovering over the next 6 weeks.
Hello, I'm Janelle Provost. The first regional small business awards were held in Newcastle today. The winners, Curran Electronics, Hunter Valley Electrical Rewinds and Diva Clothing Company, will go on to the state finals and then hopefully on to the national competition.
Join Anna Manzoni and John Church for all the news tonight at 6.
It was early in the race when Herodian, ridden by Dennis McClune, crashed heavily to the track.
Oh, Herodian lost the rider. Dennis McClune's had a very nasty fall, Strictly Irish over the top of it, and I think Crested Groom the other one to go, and there's a fourth one also. It might have been Rare Impulse. 4 jockeys on the track in a sensational start to the opening event.
All 4 jockeys were injured in the pile-up, but it was McClune who bore the brunt and is in hospital tonight with serious head injuries and multiple fractures. Jockey Brian Wood on Rare Impulse was catapulted into the air and carried along the track for some 50 metres by the following horse. He's also in hospital with abdominal injuries. The horses appeared to be okay.
Samantha's mother Tess was born in New Lambton and is a former student of Newcastle Girls High. Her uncle operates a printing firm and his presses have run non-stop to produce 165,000 posters like this one. They're being distributed statewide, appealing for public information and include recent photographs of Samantha. In Newcastle, they've been handed out in the streets and displayed in the windows of local shops. It's been a week since Samantha was last seen, but family and friends say they're not giving up hope until she's found.
In the SRA plan provide for increased efficiency in the transport fleet, which would reduce freight charges by 15%, or an extended rate reduction based on costs rather than distances, leading to a further 10% rate cut for many growers, but a slight increase to growers on less used branch railway lines. The SRA's report was presented to a state wheat seminar in Dubbo last Monday. State Rail Authority Chief David Hill says he hopes the new measures, if adopted, could mean a reduction in freight charges to some growers of up to 25%. Greatly assist growers hit by a slump in the world wheat prices and a heavy subsidies by the USA and the PEC. The Grain Handling Authority says the SRA plan is welcome and should fit in with their own rationalisation program, which aims to close 100 smaller silos in the state.
The New South Wales Liberal Party sees the Treasurer's bill as a taxing and not axing budget. They say it's only a matter of time before the Australian people, including the business sector, realises that its economic policies are not feasible or in the best interests of the country's future. That's according to the state president, Bronwyn Bishop, who addressed a council meeting of the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce today. Mrs Percy says the recent electoral results in Bass Hill and Rockdale, both former safe Labor seats, are a sign of what's to come.
Those swings were absolutely phenomenal. They have no precedent. Swings of 22% against in a seat against the government where the Premier is the outgoing member, and the present Premier, only hanging on by 54 votes, is a tremendous result for the Liberal Party. And we certainly see that translating into government, state and federal.
What about the Hunter region? What direction is the Liberal Party taking here?
Very positive indeed. It's a very important region to us. I'm here today. You're likely to see quite a lot more of me. We certainly intend to win the seat of Hunter, and we've certainly put the seat of Charlestown on our critical seats list. So we'll be putting a lot of effort here and working with Virginia Chadwick.
Lord Mayoral candidate for the Citizens Group, Don Getty, says that his group's policies are designed to boost Newcastle into a prosperous future.
Our main policy is the forward planning of Newcastle. That is a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan that takes Newcastle into the 21st century as a viable proposition. So people can say, I've got a future in Newcastle, my children have got jobs in Newcastle, and we can give them some hope. There's 36% unemployment in young people. We want to correct that by bringing in industry, bringing in manufacture, and bringing in initiatives that will help Newcastle. And we can only do that by applying this particular plan.
We have no objections to high technology. Number one merchant mill is an old mill that's going to come down within the immediate future. All we're saying is that if the BHP want to involve in mini mill operations, they should do so in the grounds of BHP Newcastle and preserve those 200 jobs for Newcastle Steelworkers.
Is the steel plan at risk?
The steel plan provides for the continuance of 3 integrated steel industries, and that plan's in shape until 1988. We seek the retention of that plan and the extension of it for another 4 years, from 1988 to 1992. We'll be endeavouring to have discussions with the authorities to attempt to have this achieved.
BHP's decision to establish a mini mill in Sydney's west comes at a time when Australia's iron and steel industry is the subject of a parliamentary inquiry. The members of that committee of inquiry met with BHP management yesterday, and according to committee chairman Stephen Martin, the member for Macarthur, no mention was made of the mini mill decision. A decision which could mean the combined loss of 440 jobs at Port Kembla and here at the Newcastle works.
To finish is to win is the motto of the Shazada endurance ride, which over the past 5 days has taken 100 riders and horses into the rugged country of the McDonnell Valley. This afternoon, those winners were decided.
Join Anna Manzoni and John Church for all the news tonight at 6.
Historic St Albans has for the past 5 days played host to some of Australia's keenest followers of endurance horse riding. They've gathered in the tiny town 100 kilometres southwest of Cessnock for the 6th annual Shazada Endurance Ride, an event that's one of the longest and toughest of its type in the world. Each day riders have taken their horses out of the 2 40-kilometre loops of the rugged sandstone ridges that tower above the McDonnell Valley. The event is run under strict veterinary control, which means it's probably harder on riders than their mounts. By this afternoon, 46 of the original 100 starters were still on the trail. The motto of the ride is, finish is to win, but even so there's strong competition to finish in the shortest time. After 4.5 days riding, only minutes separated the leading trio. But in an event like this, which brings out the best in horse and rider, finishing really is winning. 12-year-old Polly Dawson was one of those winners.
It seemed really long.
Who was it tougher on, do you think, Champ or you?
It's hard to say. Like, it's strenuous on you, but the horse, like, you don't know what he's feeling like.
You must get to know your horse well on a ride like that.
Yeah, you do. You get to know him really well.
You ever feel like giving up?
Yeah, I felt like giving up on Wednesday. I was really tired, but then I got a burst of energy because it was the last 2 days of the ride coming up.
Must be great to finish.
Yeah, it's nice.
Sorry, Jim, we'll just get a very quick tissue. It was the sort of day that Matara organisers must dream about. Beautiful weather, big crowds and plenty of smiles. Thousands of people made the most of the myriad of organised activities, and the atmosphere in Civic Park was festive to say the least. The 2 big attractions were the Matara Market and the Jazz Convention on centre stage. The market provided a chance to buy many knickknacks, ranging from jewellery, plants and handicrafts. For the youngsters, face painting, balloons and plenty of sideshow food were the big attractions. But the Jazz Convention was the one that seemed to get most people in a carnival frame of mind. It featured 5 of the Hunter's top jazz bands and 5 hours of non-stop music.
Over 1,200 homes were door-knocked during the last 6 weeks. Nearly 70% of those at home bought this sticker as a sign of their support to strengthen Newcastle's nuclear-free zone policy. Richard Fletcher of the People for Nuclear Disarmament Group and organiser of the door knock says that Newcastle's present nuclear-free zoning is not backed up by any official policy or guidelines. The group has already begun lobbying candidates contesting the council elections to implement the nuclear-free zone policy in more than just name.
I think what it'll mean is that their own council's actually taking a stand to protect the safety and health of the people in this area. And it extends to all sorts of things like the transport of radioactive wastes through the city streets and through the area of Newcastle. And the council at the moment doesn't know what radioactive waste goes through this area. It doesn't know which industries use radioactive materials. It doesn't know what happens to the hospital wastes. And we're not saying that people are derelict in their duty necessarily, but somebody local should know what's going on, so that people here can be protected.
The PND has organised a public meeting at the Newcastle Workers Club on Wednesday evening, where the council candidates will be asked to state how they will enforce the nuclear-free zone.
Voluntary basis.
Members of the club were clearly angered as they sifted through the smouldering pile today. Brigades from Cardiff and West Wallsend attended the blaze in the early hours of this morning, but it was too late. An $18,000 signal box was completely destroyed in the fire. Mayor Pasterfield of Lake Macquarie City Council examined the damage with insurance assessors and said this would prompt council to speed up new measures to fight vandalism now being considered by council. Club members say they'll try to continue as normal, but it will be at least 8 months before a new signal box can be installed.
Newcastle service stations are bearing the brunt of this latest dispute in the petrol industry. The Storman and Packers control the Sydney to Newcastle pipeline, which normally provides the bulk of supplies for this area. Today, Caltex stopped delivering fuel to service stations from its Newcastle depot. Shell has started trucking petrol from Parramatta and Kempsey. Independent service station owners have looked as far as Brisbane for supplies. And already there is evidence that local supplies are low. At some stations, Bowsers have been bagged up as the tanks run dry. Since the last Storman and Packers strike, Newcastle has held very little in reserve, meaning that any hiccup in the supply chain is felt by motorists in a matter of days.
We're very vulnerable. If by a switch of a button they can turn us off or turn us on as far as fuel supply goes.
And we're running pretty lean in Newcastle?
Yes, we are, because service stations today don't hold as many stocks underground as in the earlier days because of the price of the fuel. The oil companies refuse to give us credit, and there's no way that you'd have sort of a month's supply underground and paying out that cash on delivery for it when you're not selling it, not turning it over.